Welcome everybody to Market Insights with Linux, and welcome to this new video in which I wanted to do a deep dive in gold. Alright, gold has been relatively stable, as you can see right here from the chart as well, in the recent weeks. However, given current geopolitical and economic developments as well, I think this is a commodity or a metal that can do very, very well. And I wanted to talk about that, and I wanted to talk about what's influencing the price, what you need to know about the price of gold. We'll also do a technical analysis. That is kind of why I wanted to make this video in the first place. But we also just now received news that the peace talks in Turkey between Ukraine and Russia have ended after 1 hour after the drone strikes of Ukraine obviously yesterday. But outside of that, there were already severe escalations before that in the week as well. So it's a very relevant point of time to talk about the price of gold. I'll start off with a bit of a market overview. So what is gold doing right now? What hasn't been doing basically since the 21st of April. And then we'll talk about some factors that are influencing the price of gold. We'll talk about what I expect from the price of gold afterwards, and then we will also talk a little bit about the industry in general, right? There are some interesting things going on right now that point us into the right direction, right? Because a lot of analysts in the industry, or basically in the financial markets, have said that gold can reach much higher, and I agree with that. When we're taking a look at gold right now, it has been relatively stable since April the 21st. However, if you take a look at the 12-hour trend or structure, if you take a look at the daily trend, the trend is still very much bullish, and it's still going very much upwards. So that is something in general I think you need to know. And then outside of that, we found some sort of a balance right here since the 21st of April, but given those higher time frame trends, but also in combination with some fundamentals, which we'll get into in a moment, I think a bullish continuation is most likely, where my first price target would be slightly higher at about a 10% move up. But we'll still talk about that a little bit later when we'll talk about my future predictions about gold. First of all, let's talk about a couple of things that are going on right now that are influencing the price of gold and that are also pushing the price up right now. And that's, first of all, geopolitical tension, right? And then we're not only talking about tariffs, which have obviously increased the geopolitical tensions. We're also talking about Russia, Ukraine. We're talking about Israel, Iran. Israel, Palestine doesn't really make gold move as what it has done before. But all of those are, I wouldn't say reigniting, but all of those are still very much going on. And there are no apparent signs of those slowing down, right? So that's obviously perhaps the most obvious answer to, all right, well, what's pushing the price of gold upwards? Then outside of that, there's also increased recession fears for the US. Now, personally, I'm not fully convinced about that yet. I mean, yes, there are some indications that the US is going into a recession, but ultimately, in my opinion, and I follow the US economy quite a lot, I don't think there's enough to be fearful for a recession. So that is, even though that might spur investors into buying some gold, I don't think that's one of the main drivers. And then outside of that, there's also reports that central banks are purchasing more gold, which again, that's kind of more a symptom than a cause, I would say. I mean, why are they purchasing more gold? Obviously, there's multiple reasons for that, and that drives demand. But the reasons we've spoken about before are obviously also answers to that. So those are some of the fundamental factors that are influencing the price of gold. And all of those at this point of time are influencing gold in a bullish way, I would say. Now that can change, right? That can change on a week-to-week basis. So that's definitely something you have to keep yourself updated on as well. And I tend to make a video at least once a week about gold. So if you're interested in that, consider subscribing. But for now, that's all pushing the price of gold upwards. Now, onto what I wanted to talk about next. Is what I expect from the future. Let's end with that, all right? I think that's better, because ultimately I think that's very important. So that is something you'll have to leave with. Two other things that I thought were interesting also to mention right now for gold is that, first of all, gold stocks are performing very, very well. So it's not only gold the metal doing well, no, but we also see some industry-wide attention and some industry-wide capital basically flowing into gold and the industries around that. That's bullish. And then something else, which I don't have a news article for. But what I thought was interesting is that you see a lot of gold miners at this point of time. Whereas in the early 2000s, they used hedges for the price of gold. So basically they sold gold at a specific price in the future, right? So they basically sold their production. At this point of time, that is not going on, all right? Which is at least, it's not something I would count on personally if it's only that, because it basically means that miners are expecting higher prices of gold. But it is also an added confluence in the direction which I expect gold to go up to, which is up. Now, when we're talking about future projections, first of all, I think it's too early to say that gold has broken out, all right? The main balance of gold right now is between the level right here at 3,370, and then to the bottom it's this level right here at 3,220. At this point of time, we are trying to break out, but gold has not broken out yet, all right? And that is something you have to wait for. Now, do I ultimately think we are going to get a breakout? Given the current fundamental circumstances, yes. But it is dependent on those fundamental circumstances, all right? So whether you want to take that bet and whether you want to speculate on those geopolitical situations, that's up to you. At this point of time, I'm not buying gold. And some of you might still remember the video I made in the middle of April. There we exactly called this price target right here at 3,500, 3,475 based on Fibonacci extension levels. If we are to break out of this balance, which, like I said, I'll keep you updated on, the next target, in my opinion, would be right here around 3,800 and 3,720. Again, based on Fibonacci extension levels, which have helped me predict the accurate top the last time around. So that is what I think you need to know about gold right now. Like I said, I will keep you updated on that. So if you're interested in that, consider subscribing. But for now, have a great week, have a great rest of your Monday, and take care. Bye.